A lot of men still want love. They still want intimacy, loyalty, peace, and the feeling of coming home to someone who actually feels like home. They still want that quiet comfort of sitting next to someone they love, where they do not have to perform for a moment. But more and more men are looking at modern dating and asking one uncomfortable question: is this actually worth what it might cost me? Because for many men, dating no longer feels like romance. It feels like an interview, a performance, a financial risk, an emotional gamble, and sometimes a misunderstanding waiting to happen. So when people ask, why don't men date women anymore? I think they're asking the wrong question. Maybe the better question is, what happened to dating that made being alone feel safer than trying? And before anyone takes this the wrong way, this is not a man good, woman bad video. Women are tired too. Women have been lied to, used, cheated on, disrespected, and made to feel unsafe. That is real, and I'm not ignoring it. But today I want to talk about the side that often gets dismissed. Because a lot of men did not stop dating because they hate women. They did not stop finding women attractive. They did not suddenly become cold or incapable of connection. A lot of them are just tired. Tired of guessing what is acceptable. Tired of being measured before being understood. Tired of feeling useful but not loved. Tired of being told to open up in a world that does not always know what to do with the male pain. And the scary part is, most of these men will never announce that they're done. They will just slowly disappear. They stop approaching, stop texting first, stop downloading the apps, stop explaining themselves. They stop placing their peace, confidence, and identity on the table for people who may not even value it. Because men are not necessarily done with love. A lot of them are done losing themselves for the possibility of being loved. Somewhere in the past few years, dating started to feel like less love and more like a job interview, as I said. You are expected to lose from the beginning. When men say dating is exhausting, people often hear something else. They hear women owe men something, but sometimes, the real message is much simpler. I'm tired, I'm confused, I do not know how to approach without being seen as creepy. I do not know how to be vulnerable without being seen as weak. I do not know how to love without losing myself, and that last one matters. Because for many men, the fear is not just rejection anymore. The fear is becoming a version of themselves they do not recognize just to be chosen. And once dating starts to feel like that, walking away does not feel like giving up. It feels like self-protection. And dating became a marketplace. The first big problem is that dating stopped feeling human. For a lot of men, dating has started to feel like the Facebook marketplace. There is less romance, less patience, less slow discovery. Instead, everything feels like comparison. People are swiping, upgrading, keeping options open, and silently wondering whether they could do better. Everybody becomes replaceable. And men feel this deeply. A man can spend years working on himself. He can improve his body, his income, his confidence, his communication, and his emotional intelligence. He can genuinely try to become the kind of man women want. Then he enters the dating world and still feels invisible. He downloads Tinder, takes his photo, writes his bio, tries to be himself, not boring, confident but not desperate, funny but not childish, serious but not intense. And after all that, sometimes the result is just silence. Maybe a few matches, maybe conversations that go absolutely nowhere, maybe replies that take days. Maybe someone disappears without explanation and ghosts you. Over time, a man starts to ask himself, why am I even doing this? Not because of ego, not because he thinks he deserves every woman, but because repeated rejection has a way of making a person feel invisible. And society often tells men to just deal with it, be confident, do not complain, do not be weak, do not take it personally. But how can dating not feel personal when dating is personal? A man does not always quit dating because one woman rejected him. He quits because the process slowly teaches him that he's invisible until he becomes useful, impressive, or entertaining enough. And humans were not built to audition endlessly for affection, but rejection is only one part of it. The deeper problem is that many men are not just afraid of being rejected anymore. They're afraid of being misunderstood. Dating used to be scary because rejection was scary. Now for many men, dating feels scary because misunderstanding is scary. A man might want to approach a woman in public, but he hesitates. Maybe he simply thinks she's beautiful, interesting, or just worth talking to. but he has no idea how the moment will be interpreted. What feels like courage to him might feel uncomfortable to her. What he means as a harmless interest might be received as pressure. What he hopes is charming might be seen as intrusive. And to be fair, women have real reasons for being cautious. Many women have had bad experiences, and many of them are tired of disrespectful approaches. Many women are genuinely protecting themselves, and that matters. And this is not about blaming women for having boundaries, but it does create a new reality for decent men. A lot of good men are afraid to make the first move, not because they're weak, but because they do not want to misread the situation. They do not want to become that guy who gets screenshot, laughed at, and posted in the Snapchat group. So they stay silent. They keep the compliment to themselves, they keep the attraction to themselves, and they go home. And then people ask, where have all the good men gone? A lot of them are right there, in front of your eyes. They're just not willing to risk being misunderstood anymore. And even when a man does get a date, he often feels like the test has only just begun. Useful but not being loved. The next part is kind of uncomfortable to talk about. It's money. Dating has become financially punishing for many men. They are often expected to plan the date, pay for the date, lead the interaction, be entertaining, be emotionally intelligent, make the woman feel safe, desired and chosen. And if it does not work out, they're expected to absorb the loss emotionally and financially, and then simply move on. Please do not get me wrong, a lot of men love being generous when they genuinely like someone. A man who loves you often wants to provide, protect, give and make your life easier. But generosity feels very different when it is appreciated compared to when it feels expected. No man wants to feel like an unpaid audition. No man wants to feel like his wallet is being interviewed before his heart. And this brings us to a word that matters: useful. A lot of men today do not feel loved, they feel useful. Useful for attention, validation, emotional support, fixing problems, providing stability or making someone feel safe, but not always loved as people. And when you feel like your value depends on what you provide, a painful question starts to rise. What happens if I stop providing? Would anyone choose me then? Would anyone still care? Would anyone still love me if I had nothing to give but myself? The question alone is enough to make some men pull away, but money is not even the deepest part. The deepest fear is what happens when a man finally lets someone see him clearly. And this is when vulnerability feels unsafe. People often talk about women needing emotional safety, and they do. But men need it as well. The difference is that many men are trained not to ask for it, you know. A man may not say, I do not feel emotionally safe with you. He may just say, it's fine, and then he goes quiet. He becomes distant, he stops explaining himself, he stops sharing, and eventually just checks out. Not always because he does not care, sometimes because he has learned that opening up made things worse. Maybe he once shared his fears and they were thrown back at him during an argument. Maybe he admitted insecurity and the energy just changed. Maybe he confessed stress and instead of comfort he received criticism. After that happens enough, you learn to keep things inside. You learn that your vulnerability is welcome only when it is convenient, controlled and not too heavy. That makes a man slowly, emotionally disappear. For many men, solitude feels safer than emotional exposure. Loneliness hurts, but being vulnerable with the wrong person hurts differently. And once a man learns that lesson, the next relationship is not starting from zero, it is starting from a wound. And now I want to talk about heartbreak. Have you ever had a real heartbreak? Not just a small disappointed, I mean real heartbreak. Being cheated on, used, lied to, humiliated, compared, replaced, being told I love you by someone who still felt like you were nothing. That changes you, and obviously this happens to women as well. But when we are talking about men, they usually do not get that much space to grieve. They're told to move on, hit a gym, get money, stop crying. That does not heal the wound, it just teaches you to hide it better. After a heartbreak, a man may become stronger from the outside, quieter, more disciplined, maybe he improves his body, makes more money, and builds himself, but inside something closes. Then when he meets someone new, she might wonder why he is guarded, why he does not trust easily, or why he seems distant. But maybe she is not meeting a cold man, maybe she's meeting the aftermath of someone else's actions, and that is not her fault, but it explains why he is careful. Many men who say they do not date anymore are not men who never loved. They are men who love once and pay the price. Sometimes they're not avoiding women. They're avoiding the version of themselves who believed love alone was enough, choosing peace over chaos. This might be one of the biggest reasons a lot of men are not choosing loneliness, they're choosing peace. And there's a difference. Loneliness is wanting connection and feeling its absence. Peace is finally not having chaos in your life. Many of the men have experienced relationships where love came with constant tension, arguments, tests, suspicions, comparison, emotional pressure, and the feeling that one wrong move can change the whole mood. One day you're loved, the next day you're the problem. One day you're enough, the next day you're failing. Eventually silence starts to feel safe, not because you're antisocial, but because silence does not accuse you. Your apartment does not criticize you. Your hobbies do not shame you. Sometimes predictability feels like heaven after chaos. So why are some men choosing to be alone? Because being alone feels better than being drained. A man can miss love and still not want the chaos that came with it. He can miss intimacy and still choose his peace. He can want a relationship and still refuse to enter one that makes him feel smaller. That is not always giving up. Sometimes that is growth. And dating apps made everyone replaceable. They just made everything worse. They made it look like we have more options than ever before. But somehow people feel lonelier than ever. Because dating apps did not give people more love. They gave people more comparison, more confusion, and more reasons to treat people like products. Photos, height, job title, bios, first messages. A person becomes a profile becomes an option. And an option can always be replaced. For men, dating apps can feel brutal. A woman can get hundreds of likes and still feel overwhelmed, disrespected, or tired of bad options. But a man can get almost nothing. No matches, no replies, no attention, no sign that he is even seen. One side is drowning in attention they may not even want. The other side is starving for any sign that they matter. And when those two realities meet, misunderstandings happen. She may think men are lazy, boring, or low effort. He may think women are impossible to impress, unrealistic, or not interested. But maybe the real issue is the system itself. Humans were not built to choose love like shopping online. When dating becomes endless options, people stop treating each other like people. And when everything feels replaceable, nobody feels safe. That is modern dating in one sentence. More access than ever, but less trust than ever as well. Both sides are hurt. Now I want to be clear. This is not saying women are the enemy. Women are tired too. Used, unsafe, lied to, cheated on, treated like options. Dating is broken for them too. The real problem is that both sides are hurt, and they punish each other for wounds they did not create. A good woman meets a guarded man and pays for what another woman did. A good man meets a guarded woman and pays for what another man did. Both walk away thinking, this is exactly why I do not date anymore. Maybe the problem is not that men and women cannot love each other. Maybe the problem is that too many people enter dating with unhealed pain and cult standards. One person tests while the other withdraws. One wants reassurance while the other feels controlled. And one wants closeness while the other feels trapped. Both feel unsafe, both protect themselves, both blame each other, and that is the modern dating. So what are men doing instead? The usual. Gym, business, gaming, hobbies, and peace. They're not always happy, but they're stable. They miss intimacy, but not confusion. They might miss the romance, but not the constant proving of worth. That is the trade. Peace has become more valuable than dating. There was a time when being single as a man felt like failure. Now a bad relationship is the failure. But men are not done with love. Here is the hopeful part. Most men are not done with love. They may say they are, but they may bury themselves in work, fitness, money, games, or isolation. But most men still want love. They just do not want love that costs them their peace. They're not asking for some perfect fantasy. Most just want something that feels safe, mutual, and real. Something where effort is noticed, where strength is not exploited, where vulnerability is not used against them, where their value is not measured only by what they provide. They want someone who asks not only, what can he do for me, but also, how can I make his life better as well? That kind of love still matters, maybe more than ever. So why do some men not date women anymore? Because many are tired of being evaluated but not understood. Wanted but not respected, needed but not appreciated, useful but not loved. They're tired of feeling like love is something they must constantly earn, while their own needs are optional. Tired of risking for peace for people who may not value it. And most of all, tired of pretending it does not affect them. Not every man who stops dating hates women. Not every man is broken. Some are simply waiting for a kind of love that does not ask them to abandon themselves. So maybe men are not done with love. Maybe they're done with dating that makes them feel like they have to lose themselves just to be chosen.